Okay.
That word sounds awkward.
These are black pencil grip PPD color. I just kind of went to black a while back because they're super cheap on Amazon. If you cut them in half and put them on the clarinet thumb rest, your children will buzz. Tell them it's luxury. That's the word I use. Amanda Krause. Alright, pencil grips. There's 10 in there, so it'll make 20. Or
The box!
Yes. Inside Out 2 play pack. Stickers, crayons, and an activity book. All right. I think we better stop there. I don't want to start lightning. Tell me when I'm distracted. I'm going to let you.
In case you missed it, there are notes by the door.
Let me start it. Hi, everybody. Is it going? Okay, we are here on the campus of West Texas A&M in Canyon, Texas, and I'm glad you're able to join us virtually. We have a great group here this year. Some of them are here because they found us online in the last couple of years. If you would like to come, we'd love to have you. It's almost free to come. There's a small registration fee. The online, if you stay on campus, very reasonably priced. It's an awesome group. So if you're watching this week and you like it, come join us next year. If you go to banddirectorstalkshop.com, the very first article you're going to find is Band Director Workshop Virtual or something like that. It has the clinics for today, it has the handouts and the slides. And all of you that are here in person, you have access to that. So if you want the slides, they're all on there. I usually leave those up kind of forever. The videos will only be up for a couple weeks though, so make sure you watch those quickly. Also, if you signed up online for actually, I think I put a link on that same article at the very top. You can click on the link, it'll download a schedule for the virtual clinics and a PD tracker. And if any of you, well, you guys will get something different, never mind. But online people at home, if you want to keep track and try to get credit, you're welcome to do that. We can't give you anything official, but you can keep track. Our first clinic today is going to be Michael Roberts. I'm going to let him kind of introduce himself to you. He's going to talk to us about tone. Michael Roberts.
Thank you. Let me first say thank you for being here. Thank you for coming to this. My name is Michael Roberts. I'm currently the Director of Bands at Forestwood Middle School in Louisville ISD, which is in Flower Mound, Texas, and Louisville, and a little corner of the world down there by Dallas. So I'm happy to be here. I've taught 24 years. Went to WT and have taught different levels. Started at high school and then did and have done middle school after that. So mixed classes, homogeneous classes, heterogeneous classes, all levels, all kinds of situations. So happy to talk to you guys today. The topic is tone. Seems a little broad, but we're going to try to kind of narrow in on some things. I think that the big thing I want you to try to do today is take away something, just one thing that may be helpful that you can take back for your students. I'd like to thank Tammarie and Band Directors Talk Shop for having me and inviting me to do this. Super excited to do it. I'd like to thank WT for hosting camp and doing this, and WT Band Camp and the camp directors. It's always cool to get to do this and try to share some things. Since we are talking tone, for those that like soap operas, as the tone turned from The Young and the Restless, as in beginning band, to The Bold and the Beautiful one day. If you're not a soap opera fan of the Americas, that joke flew by you. That's okay. That's all right. I spend time on those logos. It's okay. That's right. So, big thing. I'm going to try to be as concrete as I can. Tone, again, is a pretty subjective and big thing to talk about. Very global. So, I'm going to target a lot of little things. And so I may not talk about other things that you think or find really important to tone. And that doesn't mean that I don't think they're important, but I'm short on time. So we're going to start with beginning band. And what I've done is just kind of take each beginning band instrument and pick one thing that maybe you hear, see, or heard, and then one thing to try, a solution, an exercise, or situation to try to see if it changes something. I'm a big believer that perhaps you are not going to create the forever tone in beginning band because we're 11 and we're 11. And so, and I think the other big thing that I think sometimes people aren't always as conscious of is the instruments are made for adults. They're not made for kids. And so you're trying to get an 11-year-old of some size to play a tuba or even a flute, and it's just, they're a kid. And so there's just, I'm not saying they're limited, but you're going to have a lot of strategies and things, and also patience, and realize that what you want them to sound like, or what you're hoping they're to sound like, what they want to sound like, it's going to take some time and have to evolve. So you're going to have as many strategies and things over time to get to that success. So we're going to go through the instrument situations. Some of these slides are going to have on the right side exercises that I can click on if you're interested at some point, and or maybe a video of something I've talked about. I'm not going to deep dive on the video stuff at all because videos take time and we're just staring at a video. But I can later at the end. We can circle back and look at some things that I might have, or if I think it's really relevant to see something, we may click on it. So flute, we're going to start with the highest and kind of do score order. So on flute, you can kind of glance through that. The big things that I put about flute, if it's thin, airy, sharp sounding, typically that's very common flute sound, particularly in beginning band. There's a lot of reasons for that and a lot of things. What I do for flute, and this isn't necessarily in beginning band, this is actually an exercise that I do in full band later, but at the end of the school year, beginning band, here's something that I've tried, and I'll be honest, I don't know why it works entirely. Who cares? But it works for me in my situation when I do it. So you have the flute players. They're going to play a B flat or C above. They're going to play B flat and a C above the staff. This is all by rote. This is not written out. Okay, so you have your flute players. You're going to be B flat and C above the staff. You need to have a reference. I just have the old gray box McAdams tuner metronome, and I crank it up to that octave, and and it's sitting there. You have a harmony director or whatever, but you can't be the reference. There needs to be just a drone, okay, and play that B flat. They need to play it straight tone, and you say, okay, Kelly, play that B flat for me, straight tone, set your face, get everything ready to go, play the sound. And we're listening for waves. You tell the other students, raise your hand if you hear the waves. That means you're out of tune, right? So what's causing all of this? Their flute is too high on their face. And Dr. Garner would agree with that. 90% of the time, your flute is too high on your face. And so you've got to get your flute down. Well, just put your flute down. Or, oh, I've moved your flute down. They're kids. To be consistent with that, and they've already started and they've already put it in a place, it's really hard to change that feeling, right? An embouchure, it's hard to change that tone. So they will not play that B flat or C remotely close to in tune unless their flute is lower on their face. It's just not going to happen. So if they're putting their lip plate, their head joint up on their lip, it's too high. It goes on the chin, right? So you play the B flat, it's going to have waves, lower on your face. You may have to go over the first few times, get that crown, and just kind of slide it down. Well, I lost my sound. Well, then now it's in the right place, right? But now it's not in enough, right? So it's too far, like this, right? The embouchure hole is pointing too far to the ceiling. So they need to cover a bit more of the hole. And then the sound will come back. Does that make sense? So a lot of times if it's too high, when they move it down to the correct place, they lose their sound, and then they're, oh, I don't want to do it. Oh, I'm not getting the right answer. That's okay. Now you just need to go in just a hair because it's lower, and you need more covering the hole. Does that make sense? You've lost the sound. You've lost the friction point, right? So you lower it in a little bit, get that straight tone on that B flat. When that happens, say, okay, go to C. Don't break, just move to C. Now you have to do another straight tone. If this angle, right? If they're rolled in, I hate to say that, I don't like that, but if they're rolled in enough, if they're covering enough of the embouchure hole, then the C will also be in tune. Does that make sense? If it's sharp, then they've got to make that adjustment this way with the flute. So there's this way to adjust, right? High and low, and then this way. So you just got to, that's just an exercise, and I don't even say an exercise. And I'll tell you, I just sit there and go, that's all right, we're going to wait. Everybody raise your hand when you hear it. That's an ear training thing for the other kids, because it's like, when I was a kid, I didn't hear waves. Never said, you hear the waves? No. No. Yes. And some kids just don't hear it yet. They're kids. Or they don't know that they're supposed to hear it. Or they think that's vibrato at some point. That's not vibrato. We're out of tune. So just a quick thing. It takes a few minutes, particularly the first time you do it, and depending on the size of the class, right? And that's just if you have you got to just have your flutes, or you can do it one-on-one, try to help somebody do better. And this whole purpose is to get it lower on their face and the right angle. And it's something concrete that they can see, right? And they can hear it and they can feel it. And so when we're trying to grow our tone and develop it, you've got to give as much concrete with kids. You can't say, we'll play to the sunset. Well, great, thanks, Mr. Holland. That's not going to work. So you've got to have something they can feel. So that's a way, if they don't hear a change or they don't see a change, but you do, that's progress, and move on. So jaw forward to get the flexibility. It's like brass. That will help with the angle and covering the hole. The exercises for flute, and I'll just click on one, for example. Depending on the classes that you're teaching, if you have mixed classes and things, this is just a regular exercise I use. I have it for all the instruments. So sometimes I've taught flute and clarinet at the same time, and this is all the same. And so, you know, I'm able to have mixed classes and still work on sound without too much, you know, confusion or downtime. All the kids can participate. So I've created a lot of different exercises to where I can still teach the class and not have kids waiting on other kids while we're trying to fix sound or response. So I think the other big takeaway that you're going to see is when you're developing tone, not only do you need that concrete stuff, but the other concrete thing they need to do is see something different. So at some point, that beginning band warm-up, it says fall beginning band warm-up number 1, we're really done with that by maybe Halloween, you know, Thanksgiving. Next thing, you got to go on to something else. You can't sit there. We do our head joint until May. That's great. That's great. What else? What do you do with it? Well, same thing we did in August. That's great. That's great. That's not really, we're not getting any better. We're doing the same thing. And so they're checking out. So the level 2 thing starts getting into the complexities of the flute and those kinds of things. But you can see, even in this exercise here, and this is going to be very similar for all the instruments. The top part of the exercise, the level 2 thing that I've made, has to do with some kind of instrument specific, but it's within a small range, so it's like a long tone exercise in a sense. Does that make sense? So again, we're not so much we're focused on fingers, but not really. Right, we're working on sustaining sound and moving through the sustaining sound half steps. And it helps us do other things. And then there's always a simple tonguing thing, because we've already done tonguing by rote and that kind of stuff, but now it's written out and they can kind of see it. So it's basically a lot of stuff I've done by rote, but now they see it, so now they think they're doing something new. And so now, again, they're being more aware and more engaged about what they're listening to and what they're supposed to be listening for. So, and then I have instrument-specific exercises that are very simple. But again, I'll do some of these by rote and then eventually hand it to them. And I always try to put things that are reminder words and vocabulary to help them build that. The vibrato exercise is just the basic Dr. Garner thing. But yeah, and so you're going to kind of see as we go through these slides, there's similar ideas. And then I also put in here the band warm-ups to link to. And so when I get into full band, there's 3 chunks of sounds. Or tone exercises that we do. One deals with long tones and slurs, and then we go to articulations, and then again I always go back to the chromaticism. So again, a lot of that is the band exercise warm-ups are pretty much the beginner ones, and if you're looking at them, you're going, well, that looked a lot similar to that very fall one, right? Those first lines. Yeah, I've started in the beginning, but to them, I'm doing big boy band warm-up. Well, yeah, really, but we're still kind of doing tone, and we're just working on the same. For me, I'm working on the same thing. To them, it looks and sounds different to a kid, and so again, they're more engaged with it. So that's kind of the main thing that a lot of people have. When you get into double reads, if you have double reads, okay, count on your lesson teacher. Good luck. Okay, that's great. We want to have them, and you want to have access to them, but that's not normal or average, right? To have an oboe bassoon lesson teacher all the time or have access to that. So, you know, big believer, you need to be an expert as much as you can on your instruments. With oboes and bassoons, they have opposite problems, easy to remember, right? So the oboe usually has too much reed, and the bassoon usually has not enough, right? Again, concrete stuff, it's kind of tricky. I'll just be real blunt. I'm an oboe player. I double majored on oboe and saxophone, and so I don't have as difficult a time with the oboe because I'm more familiar with the instrument. But too much reed in the oboe, less reed, more air. Just say that constantly, right? And then they need to anchor to the lower lip on the oboe. Okay, so that's my opinion. That's fine, but they need that anchor point on their lower lip, because one reason they have too much reed is when you're playing oboe, what moves? Well, my jaw. So I can take in more reed. Well, if you're anchoring to your lower lip, and I'm trying to teach you to be still, right? You're not 90% of the time. We're not going to go like a Muppet. Right, they're not going to do that, right? And so if I'm trying to get the one thing that moves around that could cause a big problem to be still, I'm going to be more successful with having less reed in my mouth, right? Things I tell them too, also, if you can feel the reed past your lips, it's too much, you have too much in your mouth. I take the edge of the reed and anchor it to the lip line, right? And then I anchor it to the lower lip, bring the reed up or the oboe up, set it, and then breathe through the corners, and then blow, seal and blow. But with the bassoon, go up to the wire, go back a little bit. Bassoon usually, they have not enough reed because they're learning different notes, and they realize, oh, well, if I go here, this note will come out. Yeah, you can't do that, you know. the big takeaway too on this with all these things is I'm always descending, which you'll see on these exercises, or you'll see descending or going down in the box on the left. So like with oboes and bassoons, I'm going down their instrument instead of going up and that kind of thing. But yeah, use an iPad on mirror setting. They'll have that, or their phones, or a mirror. And then on the reed, I play just on the reed for a while. Tuned C for the oboe, F sharp for the bassoon. That's just me. That's not everybody. Again, different folks, different things, different reeds. Have a reed model that you like, and then get your kids to have those reeds. Your reed on oboe bassoon is 95% of it. I mean, that's just a fact. As an oboe player, that's a big deal. You want their tone to be different, switch reeds, and then deal with the math. Okay. My alarm's going to go off a lot through this, by the way. But I say all that, guys. The other thing is it's got to soak and play the reed, have water available, have to be sure they soak it. But with the oboe and bassoon stuff, the main thing is the placement of it. And the main issue that the kids have with it is because they don't have a mouthpiece, your mouth is your mouthpiece. And so we have to create the shape of a mouthpiece every day. And that's why the Christmas concert, the double reeds don't sound great. They sound immature. By the end of the year, they sound much more mature, and they're matching pitch, and there's things like that. So they have to create, my saxophone mouthpiece is one shape and always shapes the air. I play oboe bassoon. The inside of my mouth has to create a shape. And that's a pretty abstract and bizarre concept for a kid and an adult. So, you have to talk about placement, where it goes, and then not letting it move, and they need a visual reference. So I'm real big on them being able to see that, okay? And then be sure you have a quality reed. Clarinet, spread, dull sound, hiss like a cat, E, typical things. The biggest thing I've been seeing, particularly with a lot of kids nowadays, is they don't have a mouthpiece in their mouth at all, and we don't like to put our teeth on the mouthpiece. Again, patch or no patch on the top of the mouthpiece. Some people are adamant against it. Some people are for it. I'm all about having the patch. I need you to be able to feel something. Again, I need you to be able to feel something and feel that it's different. And so I put the mouthpiece patch on the top of the mouthpiece in the center, and I tell them in the beginning, we'll do our mouthpiece and barrel, and I'll, that's cool, normal stuff. When we put the clarinet all together, the first few times, I'll say, I want you to take so much mouthpiece in that you find where it squeaks, and then pull back to where it doesn't squeak. Find that little magic spot. That's where your teeth go. And a lot of the time, depending on the size of the kid, it's about the middle of the patch, depending on the side of their mouth. Sometimes it's a little closer, a little further out of their mouth. But to find that place where they squeak and then pull away from it, because a lot of times they just don't have a lot of mouthpiece in their mouth, and it's fuzzy and spread. And
online people are saying they would require access for the links,
yes,
which we talked about. Are these some where later you could get access on some, or
yes,
are they
absolutely.
videos of your students?
Some of them are videos. The videos are videos of students. So no.
So I would say, can you hear me online right now? Okay, so any that Mr. Roberts is comfortable giving access to, he'll do that later.
Sure.
If you don't have access, it's because he can't grant access on an open website because it involves something copyrighted or students.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And guys, like for example, clarinet warm-up number 2. This is just like the flute one I showed you. They're just for different instruments, right? So instead of octaves, they have register studies at the top. Yeah. And I'd say that we move on, right? So we just, again, all these exercises you'll see, they're similar. And so also because they're similar, I put rest between things. Again, I'm talking to folks that have mixed classes, right? And how to teach a mixed class and be sure you're trying to do some tonal things. Well, there's a rest. So I teach the kids, you start in measure 1, you guys start in measure, you're going to start after 4 counts on measure 1. And you're going to echo each other. Well, they're not the same notes, doesn't matter. So, the flutes will play their first 2 notes of their octave, and then the clarinets will play the first note of their register study. Now, that takes, again, you have to class routine and schedules and figure out how to sort out life, how to get that. That's a half class to figure out the situation of that. And then after that, you can start going into focusing on what they're sounding like and giving them feedback. But just the mechanics of that, sometimes with little kids, take some time. But yeah, the exercises they're all the same as the flute one. But yeah, so the cushion thing, I'm big on that. Push up with your thumb, have a wooden sound. Again, I descend on the clarinet first, anchor to your top teeth, push up with your thumb. I think clarinets generally, the biggest talk I have with them on tone is once we're going over the break, we've gone all the way down, and I think if I was gonna, if you said, well, tell me the one big, tonal thing that you think makes a difference on your clarinets. It's Cindy Bullock's clarinet page, and for a long time I could not figure out why my clarinets, would generally turn out really very good, because I don't think I'm a great clarinet teacher in the beginning year. I think I'm a lot better, but it took me a long time. And a lot of it is, clarinet, it's your hand position, greatly affects your tone. Greatly affects your tone. So as soon as I'm done with mouthpiece and barrel, and then I go through my little thing of playing an open G, and I get their hands in place, we need to start moving our hands immediately, because they're going to move their hands anyway, and they're going to change their hand position, and now you're changing their tone. And then when it's time to go over the break, or you're trying to do more complex things and move on, right, to more advanced tonal range things, well, their hands are all screwed up, and it's the clarinet. Your fingers are the keys. And so that's kind of my big talk, is your fingers are the keys. Look at this key right here. Does it change shape? No. Then your finger 4 doesn't change shape. It does this, and it moves from your big knuckle. We have to have our hands be just like the keys, and that's going to control the air for the sound and the tone, right? So I start moving fingers. The exercise that's 1A is just G, F, G, E, G, D, G, C, right? I don't do one finger at a time, because I want them to go back to G tonally. Here's your home base. We got that sounding good. Now we're moving back and forth. And it also, they like to do that. It sounds fun and cool, And then I'll start adding their right hand doing the same thing. C to B and that kind of stuff. This all typically, these exercises, we do 1B, 1A, 1B, 1C. Boy, we do that for a long, we do that through the first semester. I don't start register studies till Thanksgiving time-ish. And I just talk them through it. I don't tell them what it is, and we'll go all the way down. We'll start on C, go all the way down, and then we squeeze our register key. And what I was going to say is, if I've set them up okay, and they have enough mouthpiece, and the angles and all that kind of stuff, the note comes out just fine. And if it doesn't, then I say, okay, you squeaked. You have too much mouthpiece. Take a little less mouthpiece and do it again. Right? Too much mouthpiece, you squeaked. So that's not great. Or if it's, ooh, your grandma at church going, ooh, right? Take more mouthpiece with a higher tongue. Does that make sense? Take more mouthpiece with a higher tongue. There you go. A lot of them, most places, particularly if it's a mixed class, because it's louder and higher, it's that real spread, squawky chicken sound over the break. That's when I talk about tone. If there's a whole bunch of them, I'll go and I'll draw a funnel, and I'll say down low. It's the big part of the funnel, and you have to have more narrow air as you go higher. So as you go higher, you don't play as loud on the clarinet. So you're going from volume level like 8, and as you go higher on the clarinet, I'll start going up my clarinet, pick up my fingers. You need to change to volume level like 4. You don't have to play very loud. The notes are higher. Oh, yeah, the notes are higher. Yeah, we can hear you. You don't have to blow as hard as you can. Does that make sense? Because their other friends are playing higher notes, and they think, well, higher notes are louder. I have to blow. It's the opposite on your instrument. It's the opposite. You just focus the air. So that's kind of the tonal stuff that's common, and kind of things to kind of keep in mind and think about. But I think on clarinet, how much mouthpiece they have is your greatest obstacle, one of, in the beginning part of the year. And of what you're doing, to kind of check how much, and that their teeth are anchored on that. Saxophone, again, I play the saxophone. Other than me, I don't know, there may be somebody else out there, I hope there is, but Kelly Montgomery, a friend of mine, my first year to teach, I said, the saxophone's played in the middle. She was like, teach me about saxophone. I said, yeah, we play in the middle, and WT, Mr. She's like, well, they're too short. If they play in the middle, their hands cramp. And so people, well, you start beginner saxophone on the side, and you push out with your thumb, and boy, I know all that too. I'm not being controversial. I don't agree with it. And here's why. Because then I walked into Kelly's class, and they're all standing up. This was 20-something years ago. I said, why is your class standing up? Well, because if they sit down, they have bad hand position. I went, well, that's genius. So for 25 years, I teach beginning saxophone class, and they all stand and play. We don't have hand position. I'm not kidding. There's no hand position problems. I go grab one of my saxophone players that are here. They don't have a hand position problem. Now, I will say this. You reach a point where it's time to sit down. Right? We have to sit down. So the Christmas concert, they stand up. I put them in the back, and they stand up. They think it's cool. They do not want to sit down because they've stood up all year. They don't want to sit down when it's time. And so I do a thing, and I change their chair, and they sit, their chair is sideways. I can show you sometimes if you want, but they sit a different way than all the other instruments, and I turn their chair sideways so they can open their leg, and their hand can be down here. Kind of like, and I do it on French horn. Anyway, so tonally, I'll tell you, tonally, because when you're playing on the side, there's a lot of, we're holding our instrument, and then we're gripping, and then our hand, yeah, you're going to sound all sorts of ways. You're going to sound all sorts of ways. So we just stand, and we get everything lined up, nose, neck, stand, and it's right at their height, and it goes into their mouth at the right angle, and it's the saxophone, it's not that hard. You just play, you just move your fingers up and down, right? Anchor the teeth. Saxophones like to anchor the teeth. Similar thing to the clarinet, except when they go too far, they don't typically squeak. It just gets louder, like the lawnmower joke, right? So if you start to hear the lawnmower, it's like pull back a little bit. But usually their neck strap's the biggest issue with their amount of mouthpiece. So tonally, right? If you're going, God, we sound like trash. Check that neck strap situation of how high or how low that is, and that can fix a lot of stuff. That's a simple fix. I go down immediately. This is the other thing I was talking to a friend of mine about. Again, on saxophone, 12 notes in 12 seconds. We start on C, we flip. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pinky. Pinky, we go all the way down to B. I say, come back tomorrow, you're going to get candy bar. First one, you go C all the way down to your low, 2, flip, and go all the way down to your B, this pinky over here, and I show them all. I can't do it, go home and do it. Your face is going to have to be right to get all those notes to sound. Your face is going to have to be right to go into your right hand. Does it sound great? No, they're beginners. That's why we have the lawnmower jokes. But then I start to, or they're not using enough air. They're not, all the usual tone problems. They're too fuzzy, they're too dull, they're too loud, right? But I want something big and honky in the beginning, so I know, okay, well, our teeth are there, because the notes don't come out without your teeth. And there's a response, and my fingers are moving fine. Okay, great. Now I can kind of hone the tone. Like I said, you got to be patient. So you're going to have to sometimes you're going to have to not sound great, and then I can make it better. Oh yeah, that's a really loud, now listen to me, do I play that loud? Oh no, I don't have to play as loud anymore. No, because you have muscles in your face, right? And so I go down all the way to B, and we'll spend 2 or 3 weeks doing that, and they can pass that off and win something, all that kind of stuff. But on saxophone, I think the neck strap thing, and how you're getting them seated, or if you decide to have them stand in beginning band or mixed class. And I usually teach saxophone at little bassoon, and the saxophone stand, and the little bassoon sit in front of them, and just teach class, they don't know any better. But that affects their tone a lot, is this angle here of what they're doing. So even if you're on the, that's fine, do it on the side. I know a lot of great saxophone kids and players that started on the side, but you have to monitor a lot of stuff. Shoulders and neck, so be mindful of that. I will also say in the woodwind, in all the instruments, the chromatic stuff, and I was saying how you move on. This would be a great example of how I move on. In my beginning saxophone class this year, I made this exercise. So we're still doing our octaves, but this was our exercise after spring break. And we took a line every other class, and we would do like line number 3, pinky exercise, low note in 1 key, and then line number 11, palm key exercises. And we would play whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes. And some of them would come back just be pumped and excited, and some would come back hadn't done anything. Well, that's all right, we'll play it anyway. You have to have seen it. And they had good tone on all the mid-range stuff, and they were they weren't bored. They were great kids, but it was like, well, we can move on. We can move on, and most of them want to move on. And playing high like this and trying to play low is going to make everything else sound better, because it's not as extreme, and they can focus on, oh, this is easier. I can think now. Whereas here, So I just try to keep them interested and kind of move on to something else. We didn't get through all the lines, but we started on it. It was good for them. I'm going to learn that all summer. Oh, good. Do that at home. As loud as you want. Okay, so brass. Here's my 2 big takeaways. This was life-changing. I did not come up with any of this. Eat the mouthpiece. What? Eat the mouthpiece. Eat the mouthpiece. What do? I have a video. I won't show it because it's like 2 minutes, but I won't show it. I have a video that I can send to you. And it's the first time I did it with the trombone class. You'll see all sorts of things. If you do it with the little kids, the beginners, I'll be honest, the little kid beginners, no kids really like to do this. I don't understand. I get that it's uncomfortable. Short version is you take your trombone mouthpiece, keep it on the instrument, go to playing position, put your teeth over the cup, your tongue is flat under the cup, your teeth are on the receiver, and then I do 2 kinds of air. I'll say you breathe through your corners and you blow hot air, and they'll go. You don't hear hot air. Welcome to science class. Fog. Oh, and I'll say fog. Okay, take it out. Right, okay, fog, blow fog. Okay, you don't hear it, right? Do that. And so eat the mouthpiece, and they're little kids, and again, it's an adult-sized mouthpiece with little kid mouths, so it's uncomfortable. I talk about this is going to feel weird, it's going to be uncomfortable. You got to check your brace, don't hit your teeth, it'll hurt, don't chip it too. Okay, but we're going to try it anyway. So you open up, like the doctor, and you set the mouthpiece on your tongue, you put your teeth over the cup again, we're going to fog up our horn. Keep your tongue down under the cup, inhale through the corners, and fog up your horn. Inhale again. We'll do it again. Okay, great. Out. And they'll all be dramatic. And okay, yeah, that was really hard. I know. Don't you play football? Anyway, so let's do it again. Now I'll say hurricane air, right? And so we'll do the same thing. Eat your mouth. Just do it. Now eat your mouthpiece. Put your teeth over the cup. Put your tongue. Put your teeth over the cup. I have to say it a lot. Put your teeth all the way over the cup. It's too. No, it's not. Open your big mouth. I heard you talk. So put your teeth over the cup, and then I'll say inhale again. And I want hurricane force air as fast as you can. So then it's like it's not going to last long, guys. It's that. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. You may get lightheaded. If you get lightheaded, please stop and take your mouthpiece out for a second. But then we'll do hurricane air. I usually do like 3 times and 3 times. And then I'll say, okay, now we're just going to play our F. Make it feel like you were just eating your mouthpiece. So now, again, something brass. Oh gosh, brass. It's so concrete. It kept your tongue down. The fog does the throat. The hurricane does the airspeed. Your abs. How you make your sound. You flex your abs to do that. And all of a sudden you have your teeth apart, and that's about the right distance generally. So you have your teeth apart, you have your tongue down, you have your throat open, and you have the air pressure you need to make sound. And all of a sudden, they will notice the sound change. They will, every time I've done this for the past probably 15 years I've been doing it, they'll go, well, no. The really top kid, the nerdy kids, they'll physically stop playing. We sound really different. Yes, we do. How do we sound? Louder. True. That is true. That is louder. How else do we sound? Clearer. We do sound clearer. Yes. Do we sound more mature? Yeah. We sound big. Yes, we sound big and strong. And so the eat the mouthpiece thing. I'm a moo cow, right? Or I pinch lips or pinch teeth. It just, I'm telling you, it's great. They don't like it. They don't like it. We'll do it sectionals. I do it at the end of the beginning band year. Some of the kids need to do it. Some of them don't. Some of them are sounding pretty good, and then we're going to be fine and keep progressing. I will go back at the beginning of the year, and then in my sectionals and band, I'll do it in my brass sectionals. I'll say, listen, you're going to do this with me every week, once a week. You go do it by yourself or not. If you do, this will make you better. You just have to trust me. And there's my first year trombone player. He came back after the summer, and I was like, Nathan, you sound, holy smokes. I ate my mouthpiece, and I just did that every day this summer. And then I played my scales, and I went, golly, that's great. I wonder who told you to do that. I know. I kind of want to be better. That's great. I'm glad you did something. And he did. He sounded like a different trombone player. His lesson teacher was like, he really opened up his sound. I was like, yes, he did. Excellent. It's great. And then the other thing, I think something concrete is Chickowitz. Again, Mr. Roberts here is not a brass player, but I get music. So Chickowitz, if you said, how do you? I don't know. Here's what I do. So I have a Chickowitz page, and all I do, again, right or wrong. Now this is with all the kiddos. Here it is. Now I have another thing that's for full band, and all these keys and all this stuff. I think that's great too. I'm old and tired and lazy. So what happens is with Chickowitz, in beginning band through my 6th, 7th, 8th graders, right? Okay, all the brass. In beginning band, I start Chickowitz usually after Team A Valentine's Day. And I'll say, okay, beginning trumpets, line 1, goal 1, play the right notes in the right rhythms, here we go. And I turn the metronome on 144, no foot tap, only time we don't tap our foot. And I say, goal 1, do all that. And so we play it once, and it's a hot mess, and we do it again, we forgot he's back and forth position. And then we do it again. And then I go, okay, great. Now, here's the real thing we're doing, guys. You can't take a breath in line number 1. So you have to breathe, and you play all line 1 in a breath at 144. And then we'll do that. We'll meet the goal. Great. We just mastered a line of music. We're working on tone, they have no idea. And we're also starting to build range. Okay, great. Now then, line number 2, same thing, trumpets, we'll do the same thing. Okay, great. Cool, do that again, great. Next week, we're going to do lines 1 and 2, 1/3, and then I just start slowing down the metronome every week and adding a line, usually every 2 to 3 classes. When I get to line 3, I'll say, you can breathe now after the highest note. But you have to get to the highest note, and then you take a breath wherever you want to finish. Okay? And so I'll do that. In the low brass classes, I start that on line 2, sometimes in beginning band. When they're in the band, when they're older, 7th and 8th graders, it's like, guys, you need to play through line 4 without taking a breath. You're in the 8th grade. But what I do is I tell them all, listen, by the end of beginning band, all the brass kids, by the end of beginning band, you should be able to go through line 5 and have response. You should be able to have response. Some of you will be able to go through line 6 and go up to that concert F and have response. I didn't say it sounded good, but you have response and can go all the way over the top and then take a breath. It's something concrete. They can see the whole class is working towards the goal, and they can hear. That note wasn't coming out in January. Look where I'm doing. And I do the same. Here's my other thing. I do the same page, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I'll say, the honor band 8th grade trumpets can play the whole page. What? Yeah. When? In May, if they're 8th grade year. And so I tell them, by the time you go to high school, you can play the whole page. And if you can't, that's okay. That just means you're not playing as consistently. That you're not bad. You just don't have the muscles. That's all. You just don't have them yet. It's like working out. And if the muscles are not there, you're not playing line 9. But the goal for me when I do this is, you got to go over the top, then you can take a breath, and as you get older, you should be able to do more in a breath and have response, because they have to build the muscles on brass instruments. You're starting with nothing. You're starting with nothing. There's nothing there. I'm going to make your forever face. I think that's fantastic. There's nothing there to make. They don't even know what to do. So you got to start playing and then molding it as you go. And if you think you're going to sit there in the very beginning forever and keep getting, we're going to get that, for that concert, that's going to sound really good by the time we get to December. Okay, but they can't play any high. We don't have really very good range. No kidding. You didn't ever go on. They're going to have to not, again, like I said, they may not sound great on this, but we can do it. And the other thing is, they know the fingerings and the nose, So I'm sitting in the 2nd band next year. I know how to play D, E, and F on the trumpet. I'm probably not going to play that in the non-varsity band, but I've played it in the beginning band, and I'm familiar with it, and the response came out. So I've got something to work with in the non-varsity band throughout the year. If there's nothing there to work with, you're just starting over all the time. So Chickowitz, again, well, that's not exactly how that's supposed to be used. I get it. I'm not very smart. So I just kind of roll with it. But what I found was, it's something that, the kids can see it and hear it and feel change, and so they do it. The motivated ones. And then, again, we're going to come in and play it anyway, so you're with me. You're going to get better by doing it. And we're all going to see if your range is improving or not. He hasn't ever practiced. He can't play any higher. That's all right. He may decide to start. It's all right. It doesn't matter when the flower blooms, as long as it does. Other things, I think with brass, horns, when you're doing warm-ups and exercises and things, I put the horn exercise on here. I adjust for range and harmonies when I do warm-ups for horns. I don't like them to go too high too soon on anything. And then with the trumpet stuff and the placement and things, I think with trumpet, I do the straw thing for placement in beginning band. And then with French horn, trombone, and euphonium, I do the sippy thing. I didn't bring my mouthpiece. That's too bad. Anyway, so I have the mouthpiece. It's here. I call it anchor. So they anchor the rim, and it's pointing up, right? And I do a check with my thumb. So we anchor our mouthpiece, and we check. And we go out, and then we come up, and then we breathe through the corners, and we blow. And then we come down, anchor, and then we check. Oh, did you have to open your teeth? Yes. Well, then when you blew the air, you closed your mouth. Is that bad? Yes, you can't get your thumb back in there. Do it again. Anchor, check, out, up, blow. Don't move. Anchor, check. Hey, you didn't have to move your teeth. So you didn't close your mouth when you blew the air, or you didn't pinch your lips. Some movement didn't occur when you blew air. And so now, again, you have a way to check. You can't put your thumb back in there. Again, that whole process, that's 2 or 3 days of, 26 trombones or 10 trombones and 4 trumpets and 8 horns going, oh, no, hang on, you know. So, but again, the placement stuff for brass is important in the beginning and to check as they kind of improve through the years and stuff. But pretty much if you get that kind of anchored in and have some ways to do that in the beginning year, you don't have to stress too much about it. Yes, ma'am?
You use that with trumpet as well?
Trumpet, I do the straw.
I don't know that.
So you have a trumpet mouthpiece. Imagine that's the trumpet mouthpiece. You take the straw, coffee straw, and then put your teeth on. What I do is I say teeth. There's some things probably. Anyway, I say put your teeth on the straw, and you blow air through the straw, and then again I have all these cue words and things, right? And so I blow, you know, blah, 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 anyway, blow the air. Essentially, you blow the air, and at some point you teach them what. About a second after you blow the air, I say, watch me blink, and then move. And then when they're blowing the air, you do this. You pull the mouthpiece towards you and pull the straw. And so they blow, set, pull. And in the beginning, I tell them I don't want vibration. I want air. I just want air. I want you to blow air. Let the air separate the lips. Blow, pull, and then as we increase airspeed, when we set and we pull, it'll vibrate. Awesome. Yeah, and again, placement, because again, they don't have, when you're doing brass and you're just randomly putting it up, they're putting it in different places. And then you're thinking, man, we just don't sound very good. Well, they put their mouthpiece in a different place, or they've started putting it in a place that's just not going to work on their face. And again, I teach very much to a mass, even though I may only have 8 trumpets. I'm still teaching like when I had a mixed class, because it's just like, well, I know this is very concrete. It's going to get to everybody, and we're all getting the same information, the same basic concepts. And then if I, depending on my class, it's not mixed, I can get into more details as the year goes on because it's that kind of a class. But if it's a big mixed class, well, I know you're set, at least generally in the right place, kind of thing. So yeah, good question. Okay, so that's all the beginner stuff. Kind of went through all those. I know I went through that fast. But again, like I said, I was kind of hit some big focal points in the beginning year. Now I'm going to talk band, okay? Some big buckets here in full band. So we're in a mixed class, right? Whether it's varsity, non-varsity, whatever kind of band class, right, that you have. Full band concepts. Some prerequisites, meaning I hope you take something away from this, but I also want you to reflect on your bands. Like, for example, this year, I've been at the school I've at, this is my 4th year, it's going to be my lone home, I'm getting older, it's great. But this is the first year at this school where I started humming again in my warm-up as a strategy. We just weren't ready. I hadn't been in the program enough, and we had certain things in the classes and the kids, and we just weren't ready. This is the first year in the fall I introduced humming. Of course, to them it's brand new, and to me it's new at this school, but I've done it a million other times, a million other places. But I was reflective on, well, this group of kids, this program, we're not ready to sit and hum, so I'm not going to introduce that concept. I've got to find other ways to attack certain things I want to do. But this year we worked on humming and audiation and that kind of stuff because they were ready for it. And now, yeah, that group of kids goes on to the high school, but this group of kids is familiar, and now they'll lead, and I can build upon it. So I say all that. I think there's some really big prerequisites that need to be in place before you try some of the things I'm about to show you. So kind of reflect on it, or you may go, that's really good, I kind of do something like that, I'll tweak it. Or you go, that seems silly. Cool. But common vocabulary, if you haven't talked about tone, or they can't talk to you about tone, or words, common words, they have reasonable equipment. We're not playing on purple trumpets and gold clarinets and that kind of thing. And if you are, that's fine, but you're going to have to kind of figure out how to get more higher quality things so you can produce better sounds. Consistent routines and structure. I misspelled the word, kind of, it looks wrong. Anyway, you have control of your class, right? Atmosphere, volunteerism, that is something that is very different. I think a student teacher pointed out to me a few years ago that was like, they just raised their hand. I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't they? I'm asking a question. Or we're going to do something, they stop me. Can I play that? Well, sure, go ahead. So if you have a culture of volunteerism, meaning they're willing to raise their hand and answer a question intelligently, to their best level of their intelligence or understanding. So they're going to volunteer to do it. You're not going to prompt or have them make it. So when I create an atmosphere, they're going to volunteer to play. There's going to be a core group of kids in your ensemble that wants to do those things. A fundamental command of the basics, how you teach your instrument. And then the start, middle, end, how they create vibration and tone. You've talked about the start of the note, the middle note, the end of the note. This is how we make sound, essentially, right? So that, again, you kind of have those fundamentals in place. So There's 2 chunks to your class, usually the warm-up and the band music. So the first chunk is the warm-up. Know what you want to hear. So for example, I think that's something, particularly if you're a younger teacher, you have no idea what you want something to sound like. Well, I hear the Marine Band. That's great. You don't have the Marine Band, but that's good to have. It's good to have an idea of where you're headed 30 years later. But a concept of your individual instrument tones. You listen to recordings. You have your own concept of what you want flutes to sound like, etc. Instrumentation of your group. Right? I don't like our second band next year. Our non-varsity band won't have any French horns. So when we're picking music, we're going to have to think about. We got 12 altos, no problem then. We're just going to figure out how we want that to sound and rescore the tenor sax for a horn part if I want it to sound more brassy, right? So instrumentation, the size and the shape of your instrument, right? And or the size and shape of your ensemble and how you're setting it up, okay? I use risers. I will go to every corner of the world to make sure I have risers in my rehearsals. I didn't used to do that, and then I realized with little kids in particular, when they're the trumpets and the trombones are on the riser, it's just clearer, and they're directional, and they're just more present, and there's more effort, and there's more trying. You didn't say anything about tone. Well, that's better because they're more present, and there's more effort, and there's more trying, and there's prestige, and I can see them, and they can see me, and I can, I find it difficult when they're on the floor, everybody's on the floor, to get the sounds I'm wanting. Because I sometimes have to ask them to do things I may not want them to do, or that I know, well, the second trumpets, they're going to go past their best sound if I say it like that. You know what I mean? So you have to be more thoughtful. And again, different rooms, different acoustics, or how you want your bands to sound. That's fine. But I'm very much into, I want my trumpets and trombones right here. Okay? And that'll come back in a second. Strategies for your warm-up. Okay? Just real quick, I'm going to run this down. Expose and fix, expose and fix. Expose and fix. Expose and fix. We play that Remington on A. We play 1A descending out of that foundation. But I have this exercise. We play it all together every day. Why are you playing it all together? Do you know who can play it and sound good? No. Well, then why aren't you doing that? So, take a section of the week. I got weak trombones, or I got a bunch of, all my trumpets are in 7th grade. Then they should get section of the week. Trumpets, you're going to be section of the week. What are you going to do? I'm going to pick something out of the warm-up. You're going to play it down the road this week. Oh, great. Hey, trumpets, next week you're going to be section of the week again. You did so good last week down the road. We did? Whatever. You're going to be the model. All of us? Yes! All of you have to play the right notes next week. So section of the week, group of the week, whatever. The other thing I started doing was pick a buddy, right? Well, my best friend plays euphonium and I play the flute. Well, that'd be fun to hear. What does that sound like? We never hear that. So I'll do things like, hey, Cole, pick a buddy. What am I doing? Just pick a buddy. Okay, well, I want Nathan. Okay, you and Nathan are, playing, the first 3 notes of this warm-up exercise together. Here we go. Exposed. Give some quick feedback. Move on. Got to play with your buddy, right? Show and tell. We'll go back to around the room in the grouping. Sustaining down the row. Sustain and do tonguing. Just go down the row and hear them play. Have a plan, right? I want to hear one of my clinicians. She was like, "Do you know what you need to do? Your band is so good." I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "But they're not as good as you think." I'm like, "Oh, thanks. That's why I pay you, I guess." Right. She's like, "Just go down the row tomorrow and play 4 quarter notes, and hear everybody play 4 quarter notes touching." And I went, "Oh, all right." Oh no, that was a sad day for me. I was like, "Quarter notes, trombones." Anyway, we have to start over. We're starting over. Yes. All of you do better. Anyway, so just go down the row. Does that make sense? And hear things. I think the other thing, modeling, questioning. So use your instrument, model what you want to hear. That is a huge deal. I did not realize most people don't do that until I got out into the world. Use your instrument. 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 And on that caveat, because it talks about it later in the music too, it talks about imitation versus repeating things. So when it comes to tone, you're going to say the word repeat a lot, or repeat this, or repeat that, or going to repeat this. You need to say, I need you to imitate me, right? So you say, hey, repeat after me, good morning.
Good morning.
Great. Imitate me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Right. You change tone. They know what that means, being impressionist. So when I play my instrument, You're playing it for the rhythm. God, I hope not. I taught you how to read rhythm. You're supposed to be able to count and do things. I'm playing my instrument so you will imitate what? Oh, the style, the tone, the vibrato, the volume changes, right? I want you to imitate the inflections on my instrument. I don't want you to repeat what I just played. Anybody can do that. Yeah, 3, 4, 1. There you go. Play it again. 3. No, play it like this. Imitate me. So there's kind of a change there, and again, they'll be more aware of their tone because now they're trying to model with you, and it's just an echo. Okay, big thing, groupings and around the room. So, and this kind of falls into the full band stuff too, and a lot of this, there's just different ways to do things, and ideas and stuff. Some of it, some of the keywords will kind of go, oh yeah, that makes sense. But so here's the biggest thing in full band. I'll sum it up like this. I want a particular sound. So directional instruments, trumpets and trombones, and they're on the riser. They're bell front. They're the power. Got it. Next set of instruments. Directional, but all over the place, right? So anything that doesn't use vibrato that's left. Tuba, euphonium, bass clarinet, clarinet, French horn. I call that group 2, the resonating instruments. Okay? So group 2, the resonating instruments, the middle of that slide. The resonating instruments, they provide resonance. Their sounds are going all over the room. So here's the directional instrument. The other ones are providing the ring. Okay? They're making it bounce around the room. And then the last one is the vibrations. Anybody that uses vibrato. Flute, oboe, bassoon, all saxophones. And so I will every day, group 1. Concert F, whatever. Group 2. Don't try to be the power. You're trying to be the power. Concrete. Oh, power. No, power down. Volume level 3 compared to their volume level 3. Oh, okay. You're more like volume level 1, right? Okay, great. Let's add group 2. Group 1, group 2 together. Don't try to be the power. Now we can hear all the instruments. Group 3, let me hear you. The vibrations. Flutes, I don't hear your vibrato. Flutes, I don't hear vibrato. You have to get your vibrato up to me. So I hear the vibrating instruments. Saxophones, I want yah, big loud vibrato. Don't care how bad it sounds. Yah. Right, that's fine. I got to hear you doing it first. So I do the vibration instruments. They add the color. So I do group 1, directional. There's my core. I do my resonating group 2. And then I add my vibrato instruments. What about the percussion? They're asleep in the back. They're fine. They're still trying to tune the timpani or figure out what the bass clef note it is. So, but yeah, so that's the tonal concept that I'm going for. That's how I break it apart. They can come up with, different people do different things. I think the big takeaway on how to then take that into the music, I do the same thing in the music. I take a look at the score. I take a look at what I'm playing. I look at, is the power instrument playing? Yes. Then the clarinet sound fits inside of the trumpet. A not power instrument is playing. Okay, resonating instrument, okay, and the flute is playing with the euphonium. Okay, well then the euphonium is resonating and has the, okay, well, but then the flute's going to add the color. So flute's, your volume level 5, your volume level 7. Does that make sense? So I can make some more tonal decisions about what I'm hearing and the clarity of what I want to hear and the clarity of what I want the kids to listen for. We write it down and who's important and when. But the main concept is as a band, they have a tonal concept. The kids go, I'll say, who's power instrument? Trumpet and trombone. They're directional. We got to hear them. They're going to beef it up. That's great. Who's providing the ring? Did you hear the timpani ring on that chord? Yeah, who did that? And those instruments will raise their hand. So now I can have conversations about tone and their sound. Do you sound mature right now? No, I sound really dull. I need to change reach. You're right. You're not using fast enough air. And so then even on an individual level, they can start integrating themselves into what they're hearing and comparing it. But I do the 3 groups. I do that also when I'm going into the score, like particularly chords. Okay. Oh, I get the harmony director. I do this and I do that. That's great. I use the tune. That's all great. I'm talking about tone, balancing who I want to hear, the volume levels. And so I may take a chord. Everybody lands here, measure 18. And I'll say, group 1, 18, hold the note. Stop. I don't hear enough second trumpet. You're the power. You're not playing up to the first trumpet. Let's go. And again, I can speak fast. They understand what I'm saying. They hear it because I have exposed it. I told them your part needs to be first trumpet. If you don't hear them, you're going to have to listen for them because they're not listening. They're not trying to play up to you. So I can hear that, and then okay, let me hear group 2, tonality stuff of it, and I do it in those groups, right? I do F around the room. That's great. That's great. I do that in the beginning to get a routine of something, and so I can hear the individual instruments and let them hear each other, right? But I pretty quickly move away from just F around the room and get into the groupings for F, because I have a concept of how I want to hear the band play music. For me, what I prefer. Doesn't mean it's not for everybody. Okay. Then I'll take something like F around the room, right? And in the music, I'm going to skip ahead here. In the music, chord or octave around the room. So instead of F around the room, I'm taking measure 17. Okay, around the room, go. Well, they already have the routine of F around the room. So I'll say, everybody find the note measure 17, we're going around the room. Go, 4 counts in between, tubas. And they're on automatic pilot, and in those 4 counts of rest, tubas. Yeah, you were flat, did you hear it? Yeah, faster air euphoniums. Great, trombones. Oh, it's 2 parts. Somebody's not on the right harmonic. Stop, start over. And now I've exposed the chord, but I'm taking it around the room like F. So I'll take a chord around the room. I do that a lot instead of F around the room. And I'll go through my music and find those points, right, the big transition points, and I'll take those 3 chords, and that'll be part of my warm-up instead of F around the room. That's usually December, January. So I'm not, oh, do you do F around the room? A little bit. I love it. It's great. It's more of a step 1, like mouthpiece barrel. Done with that. I'm going to use that strategy for what's in the music so I can expose and fix. Because a lot of kids, they'll fix it on their own. They're band kids. They're in there. They're trying. They need to hear it. And if you don't expose it, they don't know what to do. You know. And it's, well, that third needs to be flat trims. Let's hear just the third. Let's hear. That's great. Let's play the chord first and hear if everybody's on the right notes and who's important. Are you balancing or trying to listen to those groups? And then I can fine tune into that. But if it's just again, you got to expose what you hear and what you want to hear. Does that kind of make sense? Kind of what I'm saying a little bit. I'm probably repeating myself. When I talk about dynamics and stuff, I don't really say loud. I don't say loud and soft, and I don't say mezzo piano. I'm not very foo-foo like that. I just say that's on level 4. Write it down. And so I'll do some things, usually October, November, with volume levels, and I'll draw it on the board, and we'll play at different things in the music and say, okay, do you know how strong this is? That'd be like our volume level 10, guys. Oh, okay, great. Write that down, you know. And so I'll do that for tonal things, because I don't want them to go past their best sound, and then I can relate it again to a number. And it's just concrete, and that's not for everybody. You can use whatever vocabulary. Again, in context of the music, different levels of listening. People talk about listen first to yourself, the trio, the diamond, the ensemble. Again, other strategies that you can use that people talk about and you can find online and stuff. How are you defining the success in any of this? I think these 3 things kind of sum it up when it comes to your tonal things, particularly in the band chunk that we're talking about. Can the kids question and ask questions and or answer questions thoughtfully? So when I'm going around and exposing the chords, right, can I ask them questions and they respond with words that are familiar instead of, oh, that was bad. Well, true. That was true. We were wrong. Correct. That was, and I'll say things like, that was really good for beginning band. That's really good. That's the right answer for beginning band. Oh, like you're on their band now. What do we, oh, yeah. Well, I was flat on mine. I'm playing a third and it was flat. Thank you. Yes, and it was fuzzy. Yeah, so faster. I wasn't paying attention. Great, we'll do it again. Clarity in the tempo. So when you do this stuff, does it stick? Right? So now I'm going to play that piece, and when we get to 17, I've taken that chord around for a week. When I get to measure 17 in the piece, do I hear the clarity? Do the kids hear the clarity at the tempo? Because playing it around is different than going, well, the piece goes 120. Can we do that in context, right? So are we being successful in that point? And that's going to vary throughout a performance or learning cycle of the music. And then, is your music getting more complex tonally, right? So at the beginning of the year, I'm playing Mission Impossible. Theme, bass line, some groove, little harmony. That's great. That's not very complex, melodic material and harmonic material. But by the end of the year, I'm playing the Bernstein whatever movement that's written for kids, or I'm playing, there's some pretty complex, or a Gershwin thing, or grade 4 or whatever that's new and modern, and it's all these harmonies and things, and I can hear it. Well, then we've gotten better, right? We're playing more complex tonal things with chords and stuff, and they're able to talk about it and do it up to tempo, And so you kind of want to reflect on at what levels you want to be and where you're at. It may be, we're not ready for much more. we're not ready for those conversations yet. I need to unpack some other things, so I have some routines, so then I can do the routine and then talk about upper level stuff in that way. Anyway, so that's kind of that. Listening priorities, who listens to who, that's in the slide. I think this is just stuff that people have told me over the years that have helped and worked. Agree, disagree, different things. And then questions. Somebody was asking the other day about vibrato when they were looking at my slides, and I said, yeah, I should do something about vibrato. Vibrato, the purpose of it, in my opinion, is to color the sound and provide intensity. There are times that you don't use vibrato on saxophone because you're playing with a French horn. You just don't do it. It's going to cause pitch problems. You don't do it usually when you're playing with a clarinet because it's just going to cause pitch problems. Flutes always use it, or those bassoons always use it. And then tonguing. That really affects tone, but I didn't even talk about it, so because that's a different clinic.
I did my time wrong. It's 2:30 right now.
Oh, did I mess
So
up? There you
we're
go.
gonna stop and we're gonna
Cool.
restart. So if you're online, we're gonna restart on another link right now. We'll have to do the photo later somehow.
I'm
Like,
sorry,
have to-
Tamarine.
Totally my
My
fault. I
time,
was
my,
running
my
out
other
and
timer didn't
stuff.
go off. I'm
All
sorry.
right, no, you're great.
All right,
Let's
thank
do
you,
it
guys.
again. No, you're great. Alex, are we live right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the other